Hello there again, sweet darlings. I've discussed before on this channel the power of being feminine, about how it's changed my life and how it can change your life too, help you attract a good man to marry perhaps as well. But what I've heard from so many of you out there is a fear, a deep fear of being vulnerable. It's not surprising to me because I've seen this tendency in myself and in my family too. Women today are being pushed into becoming more masculine, to the point that they're even afraid to admit to their own children or parents or partners that they need help, or to share how they truly feel. We put up a wall and we tell ourselves and others that we don't need to change, that we don't need them, and we're just fine the way we are. Thank you very much. This defensiveness can quickly devolve into aggression, and we see ourselves lash out because something inside us is deeply hurting and broken. But we aren't equipped with how to share that, and we don't feel safe to do so. This goes against what's being promoted, but learning to be vulnerable, even if it means sometimes being hurt or disappointed, is a key part of being feminine, I've found. It relates very closely to being honest, humble, and soft in so many ways. I know that women out there, single or not, are afraid that if they become soft, kind, or submissive, that this will not only be perceived as weakness, but that it will actually weaken them. They are afraid that femininity and embracing all that this entails will mean that they may be taken advantage of by a cruel man, or left without the skills or means to protect themselves. This fear is largely peddled by the narrative across society that women in the past were abused and treated as second-class citizens because they were mainly wives, mothers, and lived their lives in the service of others. Somehow femininity and vulnerability have all been tied up together, and now women are afraid that being submissive or even gentle at all somehow leaves them wide open to an abusive relationship. I really don't believe this to be true, and would argue that the way society is currently treating women and girls is perhaps one of the worst times in history for us. But this reluctance to be vulnerable or feminine isn't really that surprising, when everywhere we look, the boss babe is the one that is celebrated. She needs no one. But this is a lie. We all need at least someone, at least one good friend, a kind sister, or a loving partner in an ideal world. This fear of vulnerability represents a real disconnect from reality. No man is an island, as the saying goes, but women are trying to be islands right now. Whether you need someone to help you practically or emotionally, we can't go on hiding the fact that we need help, leadership, guidance, or just a nudge in the right direction. It's a cliche, but how many times have you told your parents or your partner that you're fine when you really aren't? How many times have you given up on an idea or a dream simply because you couldn't achieve it alone? We are meant to live in harmony with men, bringing to the table the softness and grace and warmth which they would struggle to muster. And as I've discussed in other videos, men are often very vulnerable, and in those moments we have a choice as their wives or friends about how we will react. They are afraid in that moment too, about being perceived as weak or becoming a weak man by asking for or accepting help. Do we judge them harshly in those moments? If we do not understand what love really means. On the reverse, is it a risk to be vulnerable and to admit that you need or want a man's guidance about something? Of course. We live in a society where many men do not know what it means to be a protector of women or how to love them as Christ loved his church. But simply because men or women today are imperfect is no excuse to abandon the ideals, to give up on femininity and put the wall back up. Because being soft and vulnerable is not weakness, it's part of being a woman. Will there be people who disappoint us when we're honest and tell them what we need? Of course. But all we can do is tell the truth. And if we don't get the reaction we hoped for, it doesn't mean that being vulnerable was wrong. Vulnerability is tied up with the greatest experiences in life, and we cannot simply decide we will avoid it at the expense of all of those things. Falling in love, having children, traveling somewhere new, asking for help, telling someone how you really feel, admitting that you don't know the answer, admitting you were wrong, asking for forgiveness. All of these things and so many more leave us vulnerable. If we love, our hearts may be broken. If we have children, we might come to rely on our husbands even more. If we ask for help, someone might say no. If we ask for forgiveness, they might not be ready to say yes. But what is life without love? Without children? Without growing and admitting we were wrong? How lonely to attempt to go it alone because we fear needing other people or being left by them when we show them that we need them. I'm still learning that it's okay to be vulnerable, to say, I don't know how to do this, to pray and ask for the grace to be a good wife or a more patient stepmother, to tell my friends or family when I'm hurting and how I think they can help. It will probably be a lifetime of learning how to be feminine for me, but I see the alternative all around me, and for my part, I'll keep pushing towards the ideal, in the hope that one day I'll be remembered as a woman of warmth, who baked cookies and eagerly awaited her husband's return, who wasn't afraid to cry and didn't turn from those who needed her in their darkest and ugliest moments, who somehow found a way to see the silver lining, even in the hard parts of life. As ever, thank you all so much for tuning into this video. I'll be sharing more femininity tips and practices soon, so please do subscribe or leave me a comment below with video requests or questions. I hope to see you all here again soon for the next one, but in the meantime, take good care everyone, and God bless.